So welcome everyone. I am excited to be able to do this second rendition about relationship as we age. And I've added some pieces to this one that I think are really exciting. And I am wanting to continue to work on developing relationships because as the work I do continues to grow and develop, I realize that it doesn't matter whether or not I'm working with caregivers or I'm working with couples or if I'm working with adult children and their adult parents or their adult children and their grandchildren. Relationships is one of the important grounding pieces that seems to pass all the different areas that I work with people. And even in retirement, people are struggling with relationships and how they continue to want to redevelop them as they get older, or sometimes the changes that happen in their life that means that they are having to all of a sudden look for new relationships that they thought they didn't need to because things have changed in their lives. So a little bit about me for those of you who don't know me. My name is Karen Midier. I'm a psychologist and I've been in practice for over 45 years. I'm also a life and aging coach. So over the last 12 to 14 years, I've focused on working with older adults and their families. I specialize in helping people adjust to and plan for the non-financial part of retirement. I love what I do. It gives me purpose, and it also is a lot of fun as I continue to learn in all the years that I do this work. It's never ending. And the area of aging and longevity continues to grow and evolve. And there are people that are getting in the space from very different areas, definitely from the health area. I'm obviously in the mental health area. And then there is another whole area that I think is up and coming, and it is the area of social health. So we have lots to continue to learn and grow and do research on because we are evolving over time. And we are finding that because people are living for so much longer, we have many more things to plan for in life. And relationships, either the absence of them, the problems with them, or sometimes the challenges and transitions as we go through are part of the issue with growing older and aging. No one wants to be alone. And my solo agers are another whole group that continues to try to figure out how do I develop new relationships, because sometimes I really don't know anybody else. I've moved to a new place, and at this point I'm having to start over again. And they're really struggling with being alone, sometimes with family, sometimes without, or sometimes they just don't have good family relationships. So they are not necessarily wanting to rely on family. So at this point, social connections, have been shown with our research to improve emotional and physical well-being. And we also know that social isolation is really another issue of pandemics. And so the reality of dealing with social isolation and how we can make changes to that is one of the issues we need to continue to work on. If we do have strong family relationships or relationships with friends, it can lead to a longer life. And there are many studies that support that. We are looking at longevity, and our longevity area is looking at how do we healthily age through the decades, and the 90s are the fastest growing decade for all of our aging adults. And so now, as we are looking at relationships, relationship changes as they, from our 60s to our 70s to our 80s to our 90s. And there are some people who managed to get into their 100s. My grandmother went to 103. She was surrounded by all sorts of family. She was pretty lucky, and she lived with my mom, but that isn't necessarily, how most people, want to do it. Sometimes they do want family to live with them. Sometimes, they may need to go into a facility. It depends. My grandma was cognitively intact. She just was alone and physically couldn't live by herself. And so she lived with my mom until she was 103, and went up and down on her butt. We didn't even use any kind of uh, contraption to help her with that. We didn't really learn about it until later because that was a longer time ago. And one of the most recent books that I've been reading that has gotten me excited is The Art and Science of Connection by Cassie Killam. And I think it just came out within the last month or two. And she talks about social connection as health, one of the other social aging. We have, health, we have, so we have physical health, we have mental health, and then we have social health. I do think that's a really important piece that we need to look at, because we can't all do it on our own, and relationships need to be a part of that. So if we go back to some of the areas that I'm particularly looking to talk about is, in the earlier days, people have empty nests. Now, the interesting thing is empty nests can be a lot of years. I didn't have my empty nest until probably my later 20s, early 30s. No, actually, for me, it was in my 30s, early 40s. Many people, it's much earlier than that. You're adjusting to people and your children moving out, going to college, trying to get launched on their own in whatever way they are. And your life changes as a result of that. And so that's a time of transition that we need to work on to help people recreate their life as their children leave home. It can also affect couples and relationships, but singles as well. The other life stage that I focus on is retirement, shifting from work life to more free time, or sometimes to a second career, or sometimes a combination of the two, because many of my clients have decided that retirement isn't for them, or they fail at retirement because retirement isn't what it was they thought. They realized that they got a lot more benefit than just money from working. And sometimes people need time off to be able to retire and to, kind of regroup and take some time, sometimes a year or two, and then they try to figure out what they want to do next. Sometimes that may be exploring volunteer opportunities, hobbies. Sometimes it's a new business. It can be a second career. I have people who, sell businesses in their 50s, and they are now calling me. Sometimes they are CEOs of companies that said, you know what? I did all this planning for the business, but I never did any planning for retirement. I planned financially, but I never planned in any other way. And so I have a good group of people who come into my coaching practice to deal with how they want to live the rest of their life and what that's gonna look like. Um, and 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 so we have a lot of fun really trying to figure out how to recreate life as you get older. And then the other life stage is as we continue to age, providing care and support for parents, elderly parents and partners, and or spouses. I have quite a few people who come into my practice who are caregivers for a spouse. Sometimes it's caregivers for an adult child who might have either MS or some other medical issue that they continue to have to struggle with. And so they're living at home. And then, I have the caregivers for spouses, and that can be a long-term journey. It can be for their physical health because sometimes it's a physical problem and they can't manage without a lot of help planning appointments, with sometimes it's daily activities. They're not sick enough to go to a facility, and oftentimes they don't want to because they want to be able to age in place and at home. And other times they want to be able to, um, provide for their partner. And it is a challenge because it's a very long-term process, and there are way more stresses than people realize having to both take care of yourself and take care of someone else. And then there are the older adults who are also taking care of their aging parents. And so I have quite a few clients who have parents in their 80s and 90s, sometimes 100, and they are also working on helping manage those relationships and family relationships as they age. And so all of those create dynamics that people aren't necessarily prepared for. So we are going to be talking about things that are similar in all of those things and things that we can do to try to make changes in life. So we're looking at shifting family patterns and adapting to life stages as people age. So when you think about it, our needs sometimes change throughout life. We, what we needed when we were in our 20s and 30s, and even 40s as we're raising our children, are different from what we are needing when we're in our 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so, so any of the things that we might have done before, even our life purposes, we had our goals. Sometimes we finished things, we raised our children, for some of us, developed life financial fortunes, or maybe not so much fortune, but we at least have hopefully some money in the bank, or we're getting Social Security. We're doing something to be able to have our financial world a little bit more stable. But the rest of our life is still an opportunity to adjust and to plan for. And because we are usually not doing that in a vacuum, we have to interact with other people, whether or not it's an agency or it's a family member or something else, the healthcare system. It still is an interaction with relationships, sometimes to the frustration of ourselves in this world of internet and phones, with pressing one, pressing two, and not actually having a person to deal with. We all have to deal with, the challenges of that. So, so when we're, I talked about this before a little bit when we were talking about the empty nest syndrome. that, there's a lot of adjustments in that area where you have to adjust to the new dynamics with your children, because now at this point they are adults, and your relationship with them shifts a bit. And the kids sometimes they don't want to have anything to do with you and your ideas, and for a period of time, they can be independent, and sometimes it's a little different from that. Sometimes kids really have never figured out how to launch. And so many kids stay at home. Sometimes it's because they can't afford, especially in this day and age, everything is so expensive. Sometimes they can't afford to live independently. Sometimes they're in college. Sometimes they're in college and then they can't get a job, and so they're back home again. Sometimes they have children, and next thing you know, they're asking you to come back home again. So lots of time now to deal with that transition. And it can, if you have a spouse, not everyone is always on the same page around all of that. And so that can create some problems with that dynamic as well. During that time, it's a time to reconnect as a couple if you are together. So it's important to focus on rediscovering your interest in adults as partners, and it's time to get to know your spouse better if you have a spouse, or if you don't, maybe find a new one. If you no longer have one, sometimes people have lost spouses through death. Sometimes it's through divorce, or sometimes people never got married to begin with, but they might have had a child. So maintaining strong relationships with adult children is important. And one of the areas that people come to me about is the estrangement that happens between parents and their adult children. So that is another area that I work in, and that probably is one of the tougher ones that I deal with, because sometimes people have no idea why their adult children are cutting them off. Sometimes they're cutting them off, sometimes they're cutting them off from their grandchildren, and that's a very sad time for people. And so I have things that I work with people on when it comes to that. So embracing retirement. So this is the other area for me of my specialty is retirement. I do help people plan for the non-financial, but part of the things that people realize is the amount of free time they have. They are so thrilled to have free time for a while. And then after a period of time, that time seems like a lot of time, too much time. For many people, finding useful ways to spend their time so that they can continue to grow and learn, develop relationships, find things to do that are interesting, and to not get into bad habits so that they can continue to grow and enjoy life. That's important. And so we explore things like, that's where health comes in, doing workouts come in, hopefully finding ways to eat healthy, because if you're by yourself, that's always a challenge. One of the things that's on my agenda is to write a cookbook for healthy eating as an adult, because people get so tired of cooking. That's probably one of the biggest challenges that people say to me. I've been doing that for 60 some years and I am just so tired of cooking. I know I need to eat healthy, and getting healthy choice doesn't cut it that much anymore. And so trying to come up with ways for people to do batch cooking, and especially these days, to do it a little bit more frugally because everything has gotten so expensive. So someday a cookbook is on the horizon for me. I've been collecting recipes and pictures for quite some time. And this is a time to pursue your passions. So taking up the hobbies and interests that were previously set aside, or maybe developing new ones. That's always a lot of fun exploring. And I tell people this takes time. It's not like a one and done. Sometimes you have to try something that you didn't even know that you wanted to do. You explore it for a couple of months and say, yes, this is perfect for me. Or the other thing is, no, what was I thinking? It was such a good idea on paper, but when I actually went to do it, I realized it was either not a good fit, it was boring, it wasn't getting my needs satisfied, and so part of what I try to do with people is help them figure out what are your needs. What are the things that get you excited? What are the things that are missing in your life that you're trying to fulfill so that we can add some learning, diversity, and excitement in the years that you have going forward? And the other part is community involvement. And that is, and when we're talking about relationships, all of these things are ways for you to be able to develop relationships, join clubs, groups, volunteer, stay socially active. Because if you start even while you're working, sometimes you have those things in place. And if not, you're going to have to develop them either in the place where you're living right now, or if you happen to move in the place where you move to. And this is where people can join things like Rotary, or they can, since I'm still working, I joined a chamber. Newcomers Club are great sources. You don't even have to be new. You just need to be new to the group. And many communities have newcomers clubs that have so many different activities with lots of different ways to meet people. And that is always a great opportunity to meet older adults because there's a lot more older adults that have time to do things like newcomers groups. So grandparenting. Well, not everyone is a grandparent. I'm 72 and I am going to be having that opportunity in the next few months. So I am not a grandparent, but I work with many people who are grandparents it has been a huge part of their lives for people who want to. Not everyone does. But for many people, becoming a grandparent gives them an opportunity for a do-over for, re-engaging with family and with in a different way. And it's a source of wonderful way to be able to support your child or your nephew. It doesn't matter. It could even be a grand nephew if it's not your own grandchild. And but it also creates problems with families because the parents and the child aren't always on the same page. And so some of the communication strategies that we're going to talk about a little bit later on will address some of those things because boundaries are important for grandparenting and doing things so that it encourages the relationships to evolve and develop anew is a wonderful opportunity. The opportunity to build and rebuild and bond. Sometimes your kids are not needing you so much, and then all of a sudden you become a grandparent, and all of a sudden they have a lot more information that they want to have from you, or financial support, depends on what it is. I will tell you that I have an older child, so my daughter is kind of like me. I didn't have my children until I was 36 and 39. My daughter, who is going to be 36 when she has her child, but the world has really shifted a lot for kids that are older because of the internet. So much more ways for them to find out about things and support groups that they can connect with now that when we were growing up, we just didn't always know unless it was later on when they were in school. So the world has shifted a bit in that area. I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm pretty lucky because I have a good relationship with my daughter, but not everyone has that. And so we will talk about how do you try to work on those relationships, because that could be a source of problems, or sometimes people overdo, and then it becomes a source of stress. So I wrote, support without overstepping. Offer support to your children while respecting their parenting choices, I think is really important. Caring for aging parents. This one is a real tough one because many times it involves shifting in roles. And so I have and I work with both. I work with the older old who are complaining to me about their adult children telling them what to do. And then I also work with the adult child who is working and are really frustrated with their parents because they won't listen to them about eating healthy, doing the exercise. You know, sometimes financially they think they're making poor choices. Where are they going to live? Are they going to live near me? Are they going to live with me? All of those things are issues that come up and create a lot of challenge. And who else is involved? Are you the only one? Do you have siblings involved? Do you have good relationships with your siblings? Is it all left to one? So all of these are issues that continue to come into play as you're dealing with aging parents. I unfortunately lost my parents very young. My dad was 60, my mom was 70. And, so I've outlived them both. They were healthy, until they got sick. They both got cancer. So I didn't have a chance to do that. And I feel like I get a chance to be able to help other people in that realm because I just didn't get a chance to do it. And it's my honor and privilege to be able to do that. And it's complicated. Caregiving sometimes you need to do the caregiving, sometimes you need to hire caregivers, and how to do that and how to do it well and what resources are available. It's a huge area of opportunity for to learn. Also, it's a huge area of being scammed, so you really have to be careful about finding resources that are reputable. And there are more and more aging services that are coming out in communities that are serving the needs of older adults, so you don't have to do it all alone. And then there are social services groups that help with things as well. So looking into home care services, support groups, and community resources is important. So shifting patterns. So this gets into my most favorite part of the whole thing. So took us a while to get here, but as I was preparing this, I was trying to think about what could be the theme that would be most helpful to people to touch on the areas where everyone would be able to feel like they could get some utility from it, and also to really think about reflecting in their own lives about the kinds of challenges that they have in relationships. And so part of this is, I want people to begin to think about what the dynamics and patterns are in their own relationships. What are the things that are working well? What are the things you're really proud of? And what are the things that have maybe fallen through the cracks, or the things that are missing in your life? And why is that? What are those challenges? So assessing the patterns and really giving it some thought is important. Sometimes we need to look at family history. What did you learn growing up? What were your relationships like with your own parents and grandparents? What were your relationships like with your kids? How are your relationship with your friends? And if you have no friends, why is that? And what do you have to do to make something happen? So the one area that I realized was a kind of it actually works in all the different areas, is the whole idea of boundaries. Because boundaries are things that sometimes we learn growing up. And it also, when we don't have boundaries that are healthy, we have problems in some of the relationships we have. Sometimes it's not our fault. Sometimes it's the people we're interacting with. So I'm going to be doing some talk about healthy boundaries, unhealthy boundaries, what you can do about it, and how do you even identify what it is that's going on, because you need to pay attention to your own personal stuff around that. So what kinds of changes can you make, and are you willing to make? So when I wrote this, I was talking about how boundaries change as we grow older. And so, when we age, our experience, our values, and our priorities evolve. Part of what I do when I'm working in the area of retirement is I have people look at those things. I have people explore their values, I explore their purpose, and explore how they want to live their life going forward. But we also have changes with the people that we're interacting with. So some of the one of the beauties of aging, I think, is that we have better self-awareness. When we were young, we just kind of went through life. We didn't think about things. Things happened. We got upset all the time. No one was there to really kind of instruct us on many things. Sometimes our parents did. But in the world these days of the internet and books and webinars, we've got so much information out there for us to be able to try to learn and harness. So so this self-awareness that we have is something that we really need to pay attention to and use it. Either, if you happen to be in therapy, you can use it in your therapy process. If you like doing journaling, you can write about it. If you want to go to attend a group or something like that, or a coaching group, or you can explore it there. There's so many different places that you can use your own, self-awareness. Or if you're not aware, you can start writing to become more aware. But that's one of the beauties we have as being older adults, is that we've learned a lot over the years. We've made a lot of mistakes over the years. Sometimes we wish we could have a do-over with many things, and we do have the opportunity to learn to do some things differently. And so part of what I'm going to be doing is talk about boundaries and why they're so important. oftentimes we shift our priorities. You know, life stages bring different focuses. For example, a young adult may prioritize career growth, while an older adult might value family time and personal well-being. Um, and so what's important to people change over time. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we evolve, we change, we're allowed to. I encourage people to. If something is not working, you know, look at what else you might want to do that might be better, or at least explore it. Even as we looked at hobbies and those other things, sometimes it is, you know, you have to explore something to try it to decide whether or not it's something that really works for you or is meaningful. Um, Aging can bring a sense of confidence and assertiveness, making it easier to establish and maintain boundaries. Um, and so sometimes you have more confidence, sometimes you're maybe a little bit not as confident, but one of my most, well, one of the funnest articles that I wrote was a blog article that I wrote about the beauty of aging because I don't give a damn. And it was an article about I am who I am. And that's, you know, and I can accept that with all my wrinkles and foibles. And really, even if I go into the world and I make mistakes, like here, you know, I have to rely on Stella. I can't figure some of this technical stuff out on my own. I have to rely on other people. I sometimes have a little fun dabbling in Canva, but I really have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm not trying to be the person who knows all these things. I have certain areas that I really love to work on, and those are the areas I spend my time on. But those other areas are not for me. And so I'm able to accept that I have some limitations, and it's okay that I have limitations. And some of those limitations are just going to be there. The limitations I have in relationships, though, to me, those are the things that are important for us to work on. Because when we continue to grow and evolve in life, we don't do it just alone. Or sometimes when we are alone, we don't want to be alone because we have to think about who's going to be around to help me as I get older. Um, and struggling with relationships, if you're the sort of person who push people away and you need help, you really are in a pickle. And so it's never too late to begin again, to work on the relationships in your life that are problematic and to improve them. And I think some of the things I'm most proud of in the work that I've done is healing relationships with adult children and their parents that have been problematic for sometimes 50 years. And yet, in those last years of life, they have found ways to connect, to communicate, and to forgive. You don't always forget, but to forgive, so that those last years of life can be times of solace. And sometimes it may not always be joyful, but it is times where you know that you don't have to do it all alone, and you have somebody who loves you, who's there for you in the end. And, you know, I deal with a lot of death and dying and people who have major medical illnesses, and having those relationships be resolved at the end is something that gives me hope, and hopefully will give you some hope to think that, you know, there are some people in your life that perhaps you can heal those relationships. So we also have experience and wisdom. Life experience teaches us what works and what doesn't work in relationships, and it's guiding us to create some healthier boundaries. And then sometimes with some people, you realize there's nothing you can do, and you may need to limit those relationships. I mean, some people start in your life, they might have been a friend from childhood. They were, they were somebody that was sucking the blood out of you. They sucked it back then, they sucked it later on. You try to, give them some opportunities to grow, or you try to set boundaries with them. You realize you're the only one that's giving, you're not getting anything back. You have to decide, is this a relationship that I want to continue with? Or is this one somebody that I let go, or I just have minimal contact with? That could be a friendship. It could be a family member. It could be a work colleague if you're still working. But sometimes you need to know when you cut, I don't know if you cut the bait, I forget that expression, whatever, you just cut that relationship off. But wisdom, it's important that we use our wisdom to know that we don't always have to suffer in negative, unhealthy relationships. And then there's the health considerations, that our physical and mental health needs may change over time. And that may mean that new boundaries need to be created to ensure our own well-being. And sometimes we have to ask more for things from others when before maybe we didn't. We were somebody who really never asked for help, and now we have to learn how to do that. So here I talk about the importance of improving and identifying violated boundaries. And the reason for doing that is protecting our mental health. Clear boundaries prevent feelings of overwhelm, stress, and resentment, and it promotes mental well-being. So, so knowing when to say no to people, sometimes everyone says yes. Somebody asked you to do something, you said yes, even though you had something else to do that was really important. And it was important for you to do it. You need to know that sometimes you need to learn to say no without feeling guilty. You need to know when you're stressed and overwhelmed, and sometimes having a boundary and the clarity to say no. Enhancing relationships. Healthy boundaries foster mutual respect and understanding, leading to more fulfilling and balanced relationships. That is, you want a relationship where there's give and take. And when you do set a boundary with somebody, you want to be able to have it be accepted and talked about. You don't want to be ghosted by them or some sort of passive aggressive behavior because you said no to somebody. You want to be able to be clear about setting a boundary, the reason why you're doing it, and have it be accepted, and having a discussion to say, I can't do it this time, but maybe next week would work. Some other thing like that. Preventing burnout. And this particularly, it can happen with caregiving. It can happen, I have to prevent burnout from my own self, not working too much. I know that I have a limited amount of emotional energy. If I spend all my time giving to clients all the time, then I don't have energy for my children, my partner, or down the road, a grandchild. So I need to be able to know when to say no, how to do self-care, and how to do it so that I can feel good and not feel burned out, because I want to be able to work for a long period of time. If I don't set those boundaries, I'm going to get burned out. If you don't set your own boundaries, even as a caregiver, you're going to get burned out and you can get sick, and you don't want that to happen. And you can get resentful. You can get angry. You can get irritable. You need to be able to set boundaries and sometimes make sure you take your time. Personal growth. This is also one of my favorites. Um, I am a firm believer in personal growth as we age. We are not too old to continue to work on our own personal development. To me, that's what this is really all about. Learning how to be better, how to be a better friend, how to be a better partner, how to be a better parent, how to be a better worker, how to, I don't care if you're 80. It does not mean that you are done learning. And I will tell you that my 80-year-old clients continue to learn. They learn to set boundaries. They learn to have clarity about what they are willing to do now and what they just don't want to do anymore. And that is perfectly fine. And their families, have to adjust because, they're not used to that sometimes. They're not used to their parents finally saying, really? No, you don't want to come with us to Hawaii? I thought you loved to go to Hawaii. No, I really just want to stay home. Traveling is hard for me. I get out of my routine. It's too hard for me to eat. I have to take a walker. I have too much medication that I have to juggle. I mean, there's a lot of reasons where I've done that. How many times do I have to go to Europe? Been there, done that. Don't need to do that anymore. I have my 80-year-old clients, 85-year-olds who sometimes say, I've done it all. I don't have to do it anymore. I do have to do the things to keep me healthy. I want to stay in the best shape I can, as long as I can, to have a life where I have quality. But if my life changes and there's no more quality of life, well, then I guess I'll have to reconsider that then. Ensures safety and comfort. Boundaries create a safe environment where individuals feel respected and values. And that's the other reason is, having clarity about boundaries is very, very important. So I have a book that I have been reading on. I mean, there's obviously a number of books that are on boundaries, but this one is the workbook, and it's the one that's done by Nidra Glover Tawwab, Tawwab, and it's the Set Boundaries Workbook, practical exercises for understanding your needs and setting healthy limits. She has a book that goes along with the workbook. I definitely recommend it to you. It is a great book on boundaries, and it goes into this in much more detail with lots of examples and stories so that you can work on boundaries on your own. I highly recommend, if it's not this one, another one for you to be able to do. One of these days, I think I'm going to do a whole course on boundaries, but it's not here yet. So you'll have to rely on other people until I get that going. So some tips that I have for improving boundaries. Self-reflection. Regularly assess your needs and values and limits to ensure that boundaries align with them. So, and if you notice they're out of balance, being able to try to figure out what you need to do to get more in balance with that. And I do think sometimes writing is a good way to help. Obviously, if you have a therapist, you can talk about it with them, or a coach, a relationship coach. Clear communication. Express boundaries clearly and calmly. Use I statements to convey your needs without blaming others. And then there's this one, which is really big. Practice saying no. It's important to decline requests that overstep your boundaries. Practice saying no in a respectful manner. I mean, I have been preaching this since I was in my 20s. I remember one of the first books I ever bought was How to Say No Without Feeling Guilty. It was written a long, long time. I was in the 20s, so it's 50 years ago. So, but that's what some of these boundary books talk about. How do you say no without feeling guilty and know that it's perfectly okay, even if somebody gets upset with you? I think that's important. Seek support. So if you're struggling to set and maintain boundaries, seek support from friends, family, or a therapist or a coach. Coaches sometimes will do that as well. Or you can take a course, read a book, be consistent. So consistency enforces your boundaries. Inconsistency can lead to confusion and boundary violations. And I think, this is one that people get confused about because a lot of times people think, well, I set the boundary. How come it still is, okay, how come it still is, happening? That person is still violating my boundaries. And the reality is sometimes you have to do it more than once because people push back. People don't like boundaries, especially if you didn't do them for so long. And so they up the ante sometimes to try to do that. I will put the information in the uh, about the boundary book in the chat, but I'll do it at the end. Okay. Respect others. Always respect others' boundaries, even if they differ from your own. This mutual respect supports healthier interactions. So listen to when other people set boundaries on you. Sometimes it doesn't feel very good. I mean, having a boundary set doesn't always feel good. I mean, because people are taking care of themselves. But you need to understand that self-care, taking care of themselves, is not done out of malice. It's done out of self-preservation. And it's important, to be able to honor that. I understand that the how of when people set boundaries is important. If they say it to you in a non-respectful way, or, they yell at you, that doesn't feel very good. You can say to them, you can set a boundary with them. I understand that you're upset about that, but I want you to treat me with respect about your request. Please, can you restate that in a much calmer way? Because then it's easier for me to hear it, listen to you, and for us to have the discussion so that I can understand why this is so important to you. The whole idea of boundaries and social health is important. So, that whole idea about social health is, how do you continue to work on creating new relationships in your life, or working on the relationships that you have, so that they are people that you can continue to grow and learn from. I mean, part of what happens as we age is that we lose people. I talk with people about developing friendships of varying ages, to have friends that are younger than you, as well as friends that are older than you, as well as friends as your same age, because we need, because people pass away, people move away. people go into assisted living or a nursing home where they have health challenges and they can't be with you the way that they might have before. So in trying to enlarge our community is important. You know, how do you go and find people is the biggest challenge that I have, that people say to me, you know, I don't even know where to look. You know, here we have all this social media stuff, which to me has its pluses and minuses. There's a lot of negativity on social media, but there also is ways to learn about things that happen in your community on social media. Not everyone likes social media. Not everyone's on social media. So I would, you know, that is one source, but exploring what's available in your community. If you happen to be in an independent living, you know, go to activities. If you're not in independent living and you're in your own home and you want to try to stay in your own home, you need to find things in your community. There may be a senior center. I don't care if you're 60 years old, you still can go to a senior center. There are some senior centers that are young seniors, and there are some senior centers that are older seniors. And then there are some older adult communities that are so incredibly vibrant that you can't even get on the list to get into an activity because everything is so popular. You know, the whole world is out there. You just need to find it and explore it in your community. Um, um, Community gives you a sense of belonging, and being a part of a community and a social group helps with your self-esteem and your happiness. So it also is protective of you emotionally as well as cognitively. Um, when you, many of you have heard about the work on the blue zones where they study people who are 100 and above and in different areas of their life. And they talk about what are the things that really made a difference in those people's lives. And it was social connection. They found ways in the community, whether or not it was having a meal with other people or working on a farm with somebody else, or just being with people in their family, you know, just to, you know, teach something to the grandchildren. Social connection was the one thing that helped with longevity, help people live longer and with a better quality of life. It also helps with physical health, not just emotional health. Mental stimulation. So social interaction helps keep your mind active and reduces the risk of cognitive decline and mental health issues. We know when we are sitting with just our thoughts alone by the TV at home without anybody else, and we're ruminating and we're thinking about things, we're worrying about this and that, or watching the TV with all this crap that's always happening out there. If it's not one thing, it's another that makes your heart rate go up or makes your anger, you know, fester. Doing that with yourself, it raises blood pressure. It is not good for us to sit with our thoughts sometimes. So having the mental stimulation of talking about it with somebody else is really important. And also, you know, challenging our mind, whether or not it is reading a book. I mean, that's not necessarily a social connection, but you could be in a book club, which would have some social connection. Go to the library, talk with the librarians, find out what are the, you know, what are the places here where I could be in a book club. You know, maybe there's a book club with people that have similar interests I might be able to do something with. Behavioral influences. Healthy social networks can encourage positive behaviors such as regular exercise, healthy eating, and avoiding harmful habits. I know for myself, I have to push myself to do exercise. I am, there are some people, it's just a natural part of what they do. They get into those habits. They are, it's not me. I I know that I need to have an appointment with somebody or a class to go to or something like that in order for me to make sure that I do the physical stuff that I need to do to work on my health. Um, this week, I'm kind of excited here. I'm sitting here with my new standing desk. I'm sitting right now, but part of this whole thing is I know how important movement is. I do all this study and work, and here I am working from my desk all the time on Zoom. And so I have to really work hard to get out of my desk, walk around the house, go outside. The standing desk is for me to be also go up and down so that I don't just sit on my derriere the whole time and, expect exercise just to happen by, doing leg circles with my feet. That is not enough. So so my standing desk is part of my solution to try to find a way to get some movement in my life. Um, it doesn't have to be as expensive as that, but that's one way. You can come up with other creative ways. Um, and then longevity studies have shown that strong social connections can contribute to longer life, highlighting their importance to overall health. I mean, I do think that if it's, even if you're going to go for a walk, see if you can find a walking group. So you don't have to walk always by yourself. Sometimes you might want to walk by yourself, but you might find a partner who, when you're feeling like, yeah, I don't know if I feel like I'm gonna go, but your partner calls you and you say, come on, let's go outside. Come on, let's go to get a cup of coffee. Come on, having somebody to do it with makes it more enjoyable and you're more likely to do that change of behavior. So I have another book here. I'll put them both in the chat. I haven't read this one yet, but I love the title. And the name of the author is Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dispenza. And, when I told my partner about it, he knew about this guy. I just had never heard of him. And the book is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I just love the title. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. I just thought such a great title. I've got to read this book. And it really is about how do you unlock yourself from who you are to create and be the person you would like to be. I don't know if it's a good book on that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I like the idea of it. So that's why I got that book. I think I have enough books to last me at least 2 more lifetimes. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get it all written and read, but he's on my list. Let's see. So I talked about a lot of these other things, setting the healthy boundaries, seeking social support, being recognized. So, so if we know, I also wanted to talk a little, oh, I don't know what happened there. Hold on. Looks like it's thinking here. The part that is in here is about what happens if you don't have the good boundaries. So hold on. This is my Milanote kind of doing its thing. Let's see. If I can do that. Well, we may not be able to get there then. Trying to remember where I got that from. Well, we may not be able to go there for right now. The rest that I was gonna be talking about was, maybe I can do it here. I might have to close it and open it again. Well, we won't do that. So done. We'll go back to the other one. So, okay, where's the share screen? All right, let's see if we can find me back where I was. I think that's where I was before. Nope. Here's nope. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Well, here I'll just share I'll just share this screen because it's a fun one. It has nothing to do with this, but I'm just sharing this screen because let's see if we can see it here. Oh, you can't even tell. This screen has all the books that I'm in the midst of reading. Can you see it here? I don't know if you can.
No, we can't see it.
You can't see it. Okay. Well, it's probably got about 50 books that's on there. And these are all the books that I've taken notes from. And it's in my Notion. It's in my Notion. So, all right. Well, then we will, let's see, share. How do I get back? I don't know where, let's see. It should be in here. Set boundaries. It's my Kindle. Oh, here it is. I think this is it. Share. Here. Can you see it here? If I close,
No, we can't see it.
you can't see it?
No.
Let's see, I know where it is. So now let's try it one more time. Share. I don't see my screen with, oh, here it is. So it's behind here. Here, I think that's it. Share. There it is. Can you see it now? It says open communication.
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going on here. See, this is where I got sidetracked into my boundaries. These are, we talked about setting norms. Let's see if where else we could go. So communication skills for family relationships. I mean, a lot of this stuff is stuff that you know, active listening, paraphrase, you know, all of the things that you do to have good talking with people you care about. Especially if you're going to be with kids, being empathetic, or friends show that you understand their feelings, avoid judging. Let's see, we'll go in here. I don't care so much about that. You know, making sure that if you do things, let's say a partner is doing something that you really like, or your child is doing something that you really like, tell them, give them that positive feedback. And also the other thing is, and this is good for your own mindset, is expressing gratitude for your day. Every day, think about what you are grateful for, because you know it could be that you're grateful for just the sun beating on your, you know, being outside and feeling good. It could be you're grateful because you only have a pain of 2 instead of a pain of 10 today. It could be that you're grateful because you were able to go and walk around the lake, or you noticed there was a hummingbird that was feeding from your feeder. I mean, I think that we have to pay more attention to some of the small little things that go on in our lives, because it sets our mood for being more positive for the day when we pay attention to all that we're grateful for. So reflection questions. So these are things for you to think about. You know, what are my most cherished memories with my family? And how can I create more of these memories? How can I improve communication with my family members? What traditions or activities can we introduce to maintain or strengthen our bond? I think those are fun ones. We just started to do family reunions once a year with our family that's on the East Coast, so that all of the, you know, little ones, because everyone now, all of my contemporaries all have children, and there more of them are having grandchildren, so there are a whole new generation of new ones that are coming that I have to get to know. We don't have the bar mitzvahs, the weddings, all of those things anymore. So what kind of new traditions can you start in your family that could feel good? Maybe it's a Sunday dinner and you know, do a barbecue in the backyard. But thinking about starting new traditions, I think, is important. How can you show appreciation and love to the family, your family members, on a regular basis? And if it's not family, it could be friends. You know, and traditions can be with friends, not family, if you don't have family you relate to or who are by you. Accommodating health challenges. I mean, this is a, you know, a whole, you know, probably topic in and of itself. You know, as we get older, the older we get, the more challenges we realize, you know, and I just realized I here I am, 72, and I'm in PT. I didn't go, I went skiing with my kids in March. I was working on stuff around my posture because I knew my posture wasn't quite right. And I didn't want to ski because I didn't want to hurt myself. So what did I do? I was doing snowshoeing. I figured, well, you know, I've snowshoed before. I went with them one morning to do snowshoeing and I hurt my arm. Here we are. I'm still, you know, it's still healing. We're in July. So I have had to do PT. I'd never had to go to an ER before. As you get older, you have things that happen to you. You might have been healthy all your life, but as the decades progress, your health challenges become more prominent. And paying attention, trying to adapt to activities and routines to help your limitations, but do not give up exercise. Do not give up movement. Go to PT if you have to. It's a Medicare benefit that you need to make sure you partake of, because it's not drugs and it can help you with doing things to create more health in your life, that is not just a pill. Yes, it takes action, it takes more effort, but you know, there's a lot of negatives to taking medication. So I would encourage you to utilize your Medicare benefit of physical therapy. Be flexible, adapt activities to accommodate your health limitations. I tried to do my walking because I realized that I wasn't swinging my arms. I never even noticed I wasn't swinging my arms. And I tried to do it with walking poles. Just couldn't do it. Maybe I can do it now. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since I had to do this other change in my walking. Now I gotta try it with poles and see if I can manage doing it that way. Little steps, baby steps, working in the right direction. Offer practical support, assist with medical appointments. This is a real big one, because many people don't always have people around to help them. You know, people go to the hospital and they get a procedure and they say to you, you have to have somebody that you know that is going to be there to drive you home. You can't get an Uber to do that. And you can't drive home yourself. It's across the street. I mean, I have, you know, these hospitals have these rules. And I have clients who have no one that they can call. No one that they can call. It is a very scary thing to be a solo ager and not have support. Reach out to people, be that go-to person for them so that you are doing something for others. It will help you with feeling like you're doing something that's helping someone else out. That helps you with your purpose. It helps you feel like you're giving back to the world, you're giving back to someone. I just think as we get older, we have to work on giving to others, just as we would love to have others give to ourselves. And then, you know, using technology for connection, video calls, social media, messaging apps, whatever it takes, to be able to make sure that we do that. Next steps. All right. This is the one that I did. So here we are. I had, you know, Stella helped me for everyone else. Karen did the last one. I figured, okay, I could do one. So I did this. Tips to help you change your life. And I said, set up a call with me. Go to Karen@coachingagingadults.com. And there it should be a link at the bottom of my, you know, where it has my name and all the information about you. You can press on it and it gives you an opportunity to set up for a free call. So you can set a call up with me if you would like to get further information. You can sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already done that. I'm going to be starting group coaching in 2 weeks. So feel free to contact me about that. You can, you know, you can have a free call to talk with me about it. Tell me what your goals are. It is going to be my introductory group. So we will be creating the model for us to do group coaching. And I'm hoping I get people that will enjoy doing some group coaching where we get to talk together rather than me talking at you like we are today. And we just want to make sure that it's a good fit